Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Zach Young, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we're joined by Christie Dickey, a performance and female empowerment coach who helps burned out, high-performing professionals reclaim their energy, clarity, and purpose so they can lead and live with intention rather than exhaustion. Drawing on more than 2 decades of experience in behavioral psychology, applied behavior and analysis, and communication, Christie blends the science of human behavior with deep consciousness work to create personalized coaching that unlocks lasting transformation. Christie, a very, very warm welcome to Founders Future.
Hello there, Zach. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great episode, a lot to dive into. Before we do, I do like to start with your background, though. So before coaching, can you walk us through what were you doing previously and what was really your inspiration to get into this space?
Well, my journey is a journey of 2 paths converging. So without doing too deep of a messy dive on the path that was more personal, I started out, in my 20s. I'm much older now, but right out of the gate, I unfortunately hooked up with a narcissist and was in a destructive relationship, which taught me a lot, right? But that path merged with my professional path. And in retrospect, in such a beautiful way. So, my background, I started out as a speech language pathologist and then ended up as an administrator in special education, specifically working with the autism population, which I always loved. But that required me to learn a ton about behavioral methodology and specifically applied behavioral analysis, which simply just means the study of human behavior and why we do what we do and how to shape it in a sustainable way over time. So you can imagine, here comes this abuse survivor that's stepping up into leadership, and oh, here you go. Let me teach you how to not only analyze your own behavior and shape it, but how to use that with everybody around you. It's extremely effective, and even with the most challenging big behavior you can imagine, it's super powerful. So those 2 paths crossed, and now sprinkle in a little bit of I almost died somewhere along the way. I think it was like, I don't know, 2015 or so. Because of past history with abuse, I stopped kind of listening to my body's signals and ignoring it, a little bit of like mind body separation. So I walked around for about 4 days with a ruptured appendix and did not acknowledge it. I was like, oh, I just have a bad stomach virus. So when I finally made it to the ER, they were like, girl, this is not the norovirus. You ruptured your appendix, your body formed this abscess to protect you from it, and then that blew. So it was a rough week. And I had a really profound experience that made me start to question, what is this reality? And I stumbled upon something called the hard problem of consciousness, which I won't go into, but if, anybody listening, if you don't know what that is, welcome to my rabbit hole. It's super interesting. Well, it's not my rabbit hole, but it's, you get my meaning. Super interesting topic to explore. What's the difference between your consciousness and your thoughts? And I'll leave it at that. But all those things sort of merge together. This deep healing that I was going through, stepping into leadership, learning how to set healthy boundaries, not only for myself, but for those around me, learning a lot about behavior science and implementation science, how to coach people through difficult situations, how to coach teams to move forward through, big challenges, and then starting to explore how do you merge something as clinical as like behavior science with a deeper level of like soul and purpose and meaning. And it became like the favorite part of that old role that I had as an administrator of bringing both those elements in to the people, the adults that were, within my scope of responsibility. So I kind of knew about a year or two before I was getting ready to leave that position, that it was time to move on. I had this deep calling to like, this is what you love. Go do that. So I started making plans to do just that. So, in addition to, I already had a master's degree in communication and one in educational leadership, but I really felt like, oh, I need to add a little more. I'd done a lot of work with the ABA stuff through someone called Dr. Greg Hanley. So I just wanted to add a little more. So I did a couple of other things. I was certified through Healthy Behavior Institute and then also through Habit Coach Pro. So it's kind of like this big, well-rounded picture bringing
Yeah.
together like that behavior science and that consciousness piece, which I feel is super important
Hmm.
from my experience personally and working with other people. If you're trying to do behavior change, without that self-awareness or what I call soul change, it doesn't stick. So think about any time you've made a New Year's resolution or you've like vowed to yourself you're never going to drink too much tequila again, right? It doesn't take too long before you stop going to the gym or you have that other shot of tequila, right?
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to bring in both of those things to pair like who you really are and getting to the heart of that, but then giving my clients the tools from behavior science to actually make that effective. So it's performance, but with soul. So I launched
Hmm.
Platinum Performance Coaching as of July 1 of this year officially. I had been doing some part-time stuff with it, like I said, for the 2 years prior. So I've just been having so much fun diving into this and working with people from all over the world. It's
Hmm.
so interesting to see that it doesn't matter where you live in the world. There are so many similarities in terms of what we struggle with, but
Hmm.
it has been really, really bucket filling to interact with so many different people, hear their stories, share my story, and start to help people using that foundation of let me teach you a little bit about human behavior and why you do what you do and why you keep doing the things you don't want to do. But then let's pair that with a deep self-awareness so we can shift your identity into who you really are. So who are you
Hmm.
being while you're doing the doing? That becomes very important.
Yeah. And for most people, it's not something we'll be able to figure out on our own. A lot of times we need a guide through it.
Absolutely. I would say, even if you are like a board certified behavior analyst or just someone with a ton of experience with behavior like myself, I have my own coach, right? Because sometimes, not sometimes, always, our perceptions are limited by our own sensory systems. And our brains are wired to pick up patterns and patterns that are familiar. So that's shocking to a lot of people to hear that there's so much of reality that your brain is not even taking in. It's not letting you take it in. You need a
Hmm.
friend if you're going to, actually make sustainable change, not just a 4 to 6 week change, but sustainable change.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough realization for a lot of people to come through. I need help. I need a coach. I need a guide.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. We'll absolutely dive into the business. I do want to ask, you mentioned the rabbit hole you went down, the hard part of consciousness. Is that a book or is that like a kind of this mental strategy? Or can you walk us through that a little bit?
But what it means, and I'll give a little bit of context, there are two problems in the science world, the top two problems that they cannot solve. One of them is what is consciousness? So if you guys are like me, I was always taught in science classes, all the way through advanced education. Consciousness is just your thinking. Well, it turns out the science world says, no, it's not. There is no way to explain this mass of neurons in your brain can produce the experience of what it's like to be Zach or what it's like to be Christie. And so, a real quick experiment to show you that you are not your thoughts is if you in your mind, right now, don't do it out loud, but in your mind, just scream, hello, like as loud as you can in your head. Who heard that? That's you. That's consciousness. You don't stop existing between your thoughts. You're still there. So consciousness is more like an observer mindset, but that's kind of trippy for people to like, what? So this is not like a quick and easy lesson, like, and that's what consciousness is. But that it's a concept within neuroscience of what is consciousness? Where does it come from? How does it arise? There are a lot of people that are much smarter than me that are doing those kinds of studies and research and putting information out to help us get a better understanding of what is going on here. But it is really pretty trippy and but also so fascinating, and it helps folks, help me in particular, to understand there's a deeper layer of who you really are. So when you start to peel back all of your life's experiences that help shape your personality, and you pair that with an understanding of behavior science and know that behavior that gets reinforced or rewarded will continue. So think about how what that means in your life. If everything that you did that people were like, "Yay, Zach, that was great," you kept doing it. And then later on in life, you were like, "Well, that's just who I am." And my question is, really?
Mm.
Who were you at the moment of birth? That blank slate, that clean observer. You can choose. You can choose how you want to respond and react. You can let go of those old stories and ways that people shaped who you became, and you get to choose the behavior that best matches your authentic identity.
Mm.
Circling back to a little context, so the first hard problem of in science that they cannot solve, the nature of consciousness, where does it come from? The second one is what is space made of? They only know about 5% of what space is made of. The other 95% is unknown to us. So kind of crazy, right? So it's not really a book, it's more like a concept. So that's why I was like, go Google it or put it into Claude or chat and just see what comes up.
Hard part of consciousness. Got it.
The
Okay.
hard problem of consciousness.
Hard problem of consciousness. Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Let's dive into the business today.
Okay.
Started in July officially. Can you
Yeah.
walk us through what does working with Christie look like? Who you typically working with? Everything like that.
Love to work with people that are, I would say, closer to midlife. So around like 35 up to like 60. And here's why I say that. It helps for people to be in a state of readiness to learn. And I feel like until you hit about, I don't know, 35, you might buy into you just need to keep working harder, sort of that grind culture. Because there is some truth to that, that hard work does pay off. But behavior science and consciousness work kind of highlights there's more to it than that. And both are such powerful tools to help somebody that's like, man, I keep watching everybody else get the promotion or the wins, and I don't get it. I keep, struggling in my relationships, starting to see some patterns of, despite the fact that I have these trainings and degrees and I'm a hard worker, I'm not getting anywhere. So it's nice for people to at least arrive to that part of their life's journey, but maybe not so far along that you're like, you know what, I'm just going to retire. Who cares? You know what I mean? So I
Makes
like
sense.
that sweet spot. And when I first started envisioning platinum performance, I thought that I would work exclusively with women. But after talking with people all over the planet, this is not a female exclusive problem. So I have very much enjoyed my male clients and helping them start on this journey as well.
Mhm.
So males and females alike, if you're finding that you're just in that rut, you're burned out, you don't know what else to do, you've worked as hard as you could, you've gotten all the degrees, hello, I'm over here and can shed some light on what's going on and how to get through that.
Hmm. I'd love to know how do you go about doing that with your clients? right? How do you structure the work? Does it is it a lot of one-on-one work? Is there some group coaching involved? Walk us through that process.
hmm Up until this point, I've just done one on one. But starting in January, I'm going to be launching something called the Platinum Collective, which is more of group based learning. So, it'll be set up on a platform where you have access to, one group coaching session, one more like what I would call case study, where people can bring in particular situations, whether it's personal in like life relationships or it's something that happened at work, a meeting perhaps that went sideways that we can almost like unpack through a behavioral lens to help the person understand. Here's where it went sideways from a behavior science lens. Here's how to alter your behavior in a next similar meeting. It still aligns with your true identity, but things that your boss, your supervisor, your coworkers are going to reinforce. If you just kind of know that secret sauce of why am I not being noticed? Why are people, talking over me? Why am I not getting that recognition? I can help with those things. So that's what that group work would look like. Some direct teaching, some case studies, and a whole lot of resources and tools throughout the month to kind of help you
Mm.
sort of get going and learn more about this. And at the same time, I'll continue the one on one coaching. And the one on one, I offer a variety of different things. Some people just like to have, like, can I just meet with you for like an hour and a half, couple hours? I just need to kind of really map out strategy. Like, where am I going? I don't really know what I want. Can you help me? So, I just call that's goal setting, but it's really a little bit deeper than that because we have to
Mm.
dive into things like what are your values? What do you really care about? What are you good at? What are your skills? Where are the gaps? Tell me, if you had a magic wand, what would your life look like in 3 years, 5 years? All right, let's go. Let's use some behavior science and consciousness work to build step one, step two, step three to kind of get you there. So
Mm.
that's one thing that's sort of one off. I mentioned that meeting debrief. Folks love that because learning about like why do people do the things that they do can be really powerful if we're talking about your boss. Like why does your boss like Joe and he always gets the, high visibility work and promotions but you don't. Or in meetings, Joe, hogs the whole conversation. You try to speak and you feel like you have to scream to get heard. Let's unpack that. I'll explain through a behavior science lens what is it that Joe's doing that your boss likes and why that's getting reinforced? And how can we shape your behavior? Again, not in a weird, deceptive way or manipulative way, it still needs to be like that. That's who you are, Zach.
Mm.
But we can shape that. So, oh, now you're speaking your boss's language. You'll behave in a way that he will or she will reinforce and see you, and you don't have to scream anymore to get your point across. Some people like to work with me though that they're engaged in more of my Platinum Pathways program, which is takes a little longer. On my website, I call it 90 days, but really it takes what it takes. If it takes longer than 90 days, we keep going with that. So that's more the deep dive. Let's talk about getting your nervous system regulated. Let's talk about identity and who you really are, which is a little bit of a let's dive into consciousness and have those conversations so that you kind of have that understanding. Then let's bring in, those new habits and how to use behavior science to make those sustainable in a way that aligns to your true identity. So
Mm.
those are all the ways that you can work with me one on one. And then, like I said, starting in January, I'm going to have the Platinum Collective if group dynamics feels a little more comfortable. And sometimes it
Yeah.
does. People don't really like to be in the spotlight of one on one. So group coaching can be a really nice way to dip your toe in the water and almost
Mm.
be observer for a little while until you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, and it's also nice not knowing you're alone,
Yeah.
that other people are
Yeah.
feeling the same way. I feel like sometimes group coaching gets a bad rap, but I found so much value in it. I love it a lot.
As a former person in education, I can tell you there's a lot of research around the fact that people actually learn better in groups if
Hmm.
it's the right group because you have a little bit of accountability. Your anxiety goes down because you don't feel like you're such in a spotlight. And that back and forth, different perspectives kind of keeps the conversation going higher, 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 even with a facilitator leading it. Like if you were in a group, Zach, you may have just the insight that somebody else really needed to hear. And maybe it's an insight that I don't have. So thank God you were there to share that helped that other person.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking to the back end of the business for a second, how are your clients currently finding you to work with you?
Right now, I'm doing it both via social media and then locally. So for our purposes, it's going to be through social media, right? Because you probably don't live in Michigan listening to this. But if you do, hello. Otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on my YouTube channel, which is Tales from the Inside with Christie. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. And I shared all my information with Zach, so you'll be able to connect with me there, and then we'll get you scheduled.
I love it. I love it. Can you walk us through your social media strategy a little bit? Is there, maybe some platforms you prefer? Are you a long form content, short form content, maybe a mix of both? Walk us
Mhm.
through that strategy a little bit.
All right, now I'm going to be super authentic and tell you that when I was preparing to do this full time, I was like, oh, this is going to be just so fun and so easy. I'm just going to hang up a shingle and I'll have like so many people. So, as you know, that is not how this game works. So,
Yeah.
I had a lot to learn. So, at first, it was like, you know what? I'm going to just start really figuring out what my niche is. Who is it I'm trying to help and how? So that's how I started. And then it was let me go find these people. I locally it's much easier than it is like trying to use social media. So that's why I'm going to stick to the social media. How's that going? And what am I doing? So I just sort of went hunting for people that are, who I feel like I could help you. Started reaching out to them. And because I wanted to make sure, like, am I really meeting the need? I started back in the summer with, would you just have a conversation with me? Truly, I just want to do like research interviews to get a feel for what's it like out there in the business world? What are your true struggles? How much of yourself are you giving away? So in my research interviews, I didn't say that, but I was asking questions to go, okay. And what I discovered is we have a lot of really high performing people that are pouring themselves out on the floor, not even realizing there's a cliff ahead. You're going to burn out if you keep trying to work like that. So that was super helpful to do those research interviews. And from there, I was able to really fine tune the content that I was putting out there, getting people engaged with me, and then having real conversations and starting to onboard people because they felt seen. Like, I see you, I've been you. Let me walk you through some tools that are incredibly powerful. I'm such a nerd about behavior science and consciousness work because I know it works. So, I try to share that passion with my clients as I onboard them into working with me. And then I started every other week on LinkedIn, which I really love because people are way more, at least in my experience, way more transparent and authentic with me in that space when we sit down for our first chats and ongoing about what their real struggles are. So I started something I call Platinum Power Bites, which are just meant to be like 10 to 15 minutes. Join me every other Thursday. It's not a long form thing, it's super short. I'm going to unpack like one pain point that I know you're struggling with as
Mm,
a potential burnout, high performing professional. And I come at it both through that behavior science lens and then through that deeper self awareness consciousness lens and merge those together and then give one quick strategy. Like you can use that when we hang up. And that's been wonderful. People are loving that super short. You can sit down at your laptop while you're eating your lunch. We have a little interaction and then away you go. So that's been
mm.
great. I've been, like I said, I'm also on YouTube with the Tales from the Inside from Christie. There, I lean a little more into like the emotional self-awareness side, but still bringing in that behavior science piece too. And on my channel, it's both long and short. So you get a
Got
little
it.
bit of both depending on what you prefer.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I love
Mm.
that. I know we talked, so in January we got the group coaching coming out. I'm curious about 2026. Are there any other goals you've set for yourself in the business you're looking to achieve?
Eventually, I would love to write a book.
Hmm.
So in my mind right now, that's where it's living, right? It's just in my mind. But I'll give myself the time to really think about that, process that. But I hope that I can get started with that this coming year. I love teaching and learning, so I really want to see that Platinum Collective take off.
Hmm.
I plan to start with a few founders in January, and we'll run it for a few months to get the bugs out and then invite it to a wider audience. I think that it could be a super powerful tool for so many people to have that deeper insight into the patterns of human behavior, and that there is a pattern. It's kind of the secret sauce once you understand that. And also that consciousness work can be so powerful when paired together in the context of a group, even more so. So that's my big goal for this coming year, is to really, really grow that collective group coaching experience, and then continue to do the one-on-one and get started on that book.
I love it. Big
Mhm.
2026 ahead, that's for sure. We talked about it a little, Christy. If you could remind us, where can the listeners find you? Where can they connect with you online?
Find me, first of all, on LinkedIn if you want to get the really meaty content. And Zach has that content information, so you'll be able to click right on that.
Mm.
I have videos there, but if you really, really prefer, like I just want to listen and watch, go to the YouTube channel, which is Tales from the Inside with Christie. Again, Zach's got that contact, so you'd be able to hop on there. I think those are the top two best ways. I also have a website that I shared. You can definitely connect with me through my website, which is platinumperformancecoaching.org. Zach's got that, so that's another way that you'll be able to connect with me if you want to just set up a time to just chat to see, are we a good fit? Is this what you need to kind of help you take that next step? That's a great place to start. Just a 10 or 15-minute conversation just to get to know each other. It's
Yeah.
okay if we're not a good fit. I understand that, but maybe we
Mm.
are, and it could be a truly life-changing, transformational journey.
Yeah, I love it. Christy, such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you so much for your time.
You betcha. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that will wrap up another inspiring episode of the Founders Feature. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go and connect with Christy on her LinkedIn, all of her social media and websites. Those will be in the show notes and description down below. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're looking to scale your business, and you really want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we went from 0 to 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.